Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Braim and I'm a committee member at the Peninsula Aero Club here in Tyab. Today we are excited to run the first of our new Zoom casts with members of the aviation industry. Through these interactive discussions, we aim to bring to PAC members and non-members, and if you're a non-member, please sign up, interesting insights, information and fun stories specific to Australian aviation. We hope you find these of interest as well as supporting your growth as a pilot. We will host these podcasts on our PAC website at pac.asn.au. Today, I'm joined by our first guest, Tim Penney, Aviation Safety Adviser at CASA. Tim has had an interesting and diverse career being involved in the aviation industry in both a professional and private capacity for 22 years. After learning to fly, he completed an instructor rating at Moorabbin Airport and worked there as a flying and theory instructor. Following time in the Australian Army, Tim worked for 5 years in the Victorian government, then briefly with Ansett and Air New Zealand. Prior to joining CASA, Tim spent 5 years as the air safety representative for Embraer Air in Australia, South Pacific, Southeast Asia and India with safety oversight and accident investigation responsibilities. Like the rest of us, Tim is a keen pilot and a passionate advocate for air safety. Tim, welcome.
Thanks, Stephen. Absolutely wonderful to join you, and welcome to everyone from the PAC. Happy to be here.
Great. Hey, Tim, let me start by asking, in this challenging time with COVID and lockdowns, what are some of the main considerations as pilots we should focus on for our mental and physical well-being?
Yeah, look, I suppose, Steve, with the lockdown, we haven't seen this type of thing really ever before, and we probably really don't have a script for it. And it's thrown a lot of challenges at the industry, both those in the industry professionally and also the private and recreational pilot too. I suppose we're now at that stage around Australia and, touch wood, even in Victoria, where we're starting to come out of this. And I think all pilots should have a think about how they're going to approach aviation going forward. And that first flight back, when you get back in the saddle post-COVID. And I'm sure, Steve, there's been a number of pilots at PAC who are now looking to get back into the air as well. Would you say that to be true?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Huge demand.
Yeah. So look, some of the things we want pilots to have a think about is, first of all, their own mental and physical well-being. It'd be quite natural for a lot of pilots to be quite nervous for the first flight back if they haven't been near an aircraft for maybe 6 or 7 months, because we've all been under a lot of stress, a lot of personal stress, mental stress, even financial stress over the last number of months. So we need to perhaps think about, are we in the correct physical and mental state to go and commit aviation again? Are we physically healthy to fly? Do we have any type of symptoms that may impact on us from a physical point of view before we go flying? And the other thing is getting back into the air, doing something completely different to what we've done over the last 6 or 7 months. Is we're probably going to be perhaps a bit more fatigued than we might have been otherwise. Doing something new, interacting with a lot of people, the brain starts to go at 100 miles an hour. So we have to just be mindful of our physical capacity and our likelihood to become fatigued. So there's some of the things that we need to look at from a personal point of view.
Okay, they're great tips, Tim. What about issues around timeliness of recencies and medicals? Where are we with that in CASA's opinion, and where can folks go to find, resources to help them understand where they are?
Yeah, sure. Look, we still have to be recent and we still have to be current. And probably the one thing weighing on people's minds is the flight review. We still need to have a current flight review, but CASA has recognised that these are unusual times, and we've put in place some relief with regards to the things like flight reviews and also medicals. You can go onto the CASA website and hit the COVID sign on our homepage, and you'll find all the details that apply there. But basically, we are giving an exemption to pilots for their medical certificate, where they can extend their medical certificate expiry date by up to 6 months, which is a nice thing to do, because we know that it can be somewhat difficult and problematic to get hold of GPs and doctors and that at this time.
So Tim, do pilots have to apply for that extension, or is it automatic?
No, it's an automatic exemption. Mm-hmm. And if you have a medical certificate that was valid on the 1st of March this year, this exemption effectively extends the expiry date of your medical by 6 months. And we also have extensions for recency with regards to proficiency checks. So proficiency checks might be instructor rating, instrument rating, that type of thing, and also flight reviews that might be required for other qualifications like type ratings or private instrument ratings, night VFR, that type of thing. All of that information is found on our CASA website, and these extensions to things like flight reviews and proficiency checks. If your flight review, for example, expires, where are we now? We're at the 23rd of September. If your flight review expires between the 1st of August and the end of September, you can add another 2 months to that flight review. If your flight review, for example, expires between the 1st of October and the end of November, then you can add another 1 month.
Okay, and I understand for like folks who might have been halfway through the CPL exams, there's been some changes there as well, because particularly in Victoria, folks haven't been actually able to go and finish the exams, and there's a 2-year window there. I think there was an extension offered there as well. That's
exactly right, Steve. There is an extension with regards to aeronautical knowledge examinations. If between 16th of March 2018 and the 15th of March 2020, if you've passed at least one part of an aeronautical knowledge examination for a flight crew license or a rating or endorsement, that rolling 2-year window will now become 2 years and 6 months. So you'll get an extra 6 months with your rolling window of exam passes.
Hey, that's great. And I might add here a little plug for what we're doing at PAC is in this COVID lockdown. We're taking a lot of the theory courses and offering them online. So we've got a group of 17 students currently doing our BAK theory online with our instructors 2 times a week, and we're moving into things like night VFR and GPS course and a PPL refresh. We think might be great for folks who've got a little time on their hands at the moment to go back and have a look at that theory before they jump back in a plane and head off into the wild blue yonder.
Yeah, that's one of the, I suppose, unseen advantages of having this lockdown, is it's enabled a lot of us in the industry to actually dive into the books again, and because we've got that time on our hands to maybe complete a theory course, or to even just drag out the flight manual of your aircraft and actually go through it page by page and sit down and do things like practicing how to use performance charts and things like that, if you haven't done that for a long time.
That's fantastic. So I've got a couple more questions here. How
Sure.
do we give ourselves the best chance of success?
Getting back into the air is a big step, especially if you haven't been near an aircraft for 6 or 7 months. My advice, and the advice that we tell industry around the place, is be kind to yourself. Recognise that you might have your 90-day recency, your flight review might be current and all of that type of thing, but be kind to yourself. Start, for example, with a simple flight. Don't have your first flight back being a multi-leg navigational exercise, maybe into and out of controlled airspace and negotiating all types of clearances, etc. To give yourself the best chance of success, wait for a fine weather day. Don't go flying when the weather is problematic. Keep the flight relatively simple. What I also recommend to a lot of people is shout yourself an hour with an instructor. Maybe go down to PAC, go to the front desk and say, look, I haven't been flying for 6 or 7 months. Can I just book an hour with an instructor? Let's go out and do some stalling. Let's go out and do some practice forced lands. engine failures after takeoff, steep turns, all of that type of thing, just to get those motor skills back again. Pick a good weather day and make sure you just fly within your own personal limits. And those personal limits might be weather related with regards to visibility. Your personal limits might even be crosswind related. If there's a bit of a crosswind blowing at Tyab, which is often the case, you might be able to have normally handled a 15-knot crosswind if you were flying every couple of weeks. You haven't flown for 7 months, maybe wait for a day where there's negligible crosswind, just to get you back into the swing of things. Depending on what aircraft you fly, you for example, in your single engine class rating, you might be able to fly anything from a Cessna 152 up to quite high performance aircraft. So rather than having your first flight back in something like a Bonanza or something like that, maybe just start with a session of circuits in a 172. Again, being kind to yourself and realising that it does take time to get those skills back. One of the things I often say to people is before you actually go flying, if there's been a break, even just set yourself up at the desk and do what I call chair flying. Fly a pretend circuit. It gives you an opportunity to practice your checklists. It gives you an opportunity to watch where your hands and feet go. It gives you a wonderful chance to also practice things like radio calls and things like that. Do some chair flying in your study. Your family might think you're crazy just making all these actions and talking to yourself, but in some respects it gets that mind back into that aviation focus before you actually go and turn the key. So there's some of the things that we can think about. Keep it simple, wait for a good weather day, and seriously, if it's been a while, consider shouting yourself an hourly instructor. It could be time and money really, really well spent.
Hey, they're great tips, Tim, and I can tell you here at PAC, our instructors are absolutely dying to get back into the sky, and they'll be ready to go when lockdown, we're released from lockdown. So they're great tips. A couple more questions here.
Yeah, sure.
What might have changed since the last time we flew?
Yeah, look, people do ask us that quite regularly, and things in aviation, even with aviation sort of in a bit of a cryogenic deep freeze over the last half a year or so, things do change. So getting back in the air is a good time to, for example, refresh yourself on things like the MET products. If it's been a while since you've had a really good look at a graphical area forecast, have a really good look at things like NOTAMs. Dive onto Oz Runways or AvPlan, drag out the VTC, and just refresh yourself on things like area frequencies, airspace steps, prohibited, restricted and danger areas. Some things invariably would have changed and altered since at the start of the year when we were last flying. And there are some also things that can change about our aircraft. Aero Club aircraft versus privately owned aircraft, it may be slightly different because Aero Club aircraft are utilised often a lot more than privately owned aircraft. But if you have your own aircraft, it might be a good idea before you get back in, if it's been 6 months or so, is I'd recommend even just going down to Tyab or wherever you may be and giving your aircraft a wash. Aircraft can accumulate bird droppings, insect nests, birds' nests, all types of things like that on the outside of the aircraft. Even going down and spending a sunny afternoon just washing the aircraft. Good for the soul, gets those aviation juices flowing again, but it enables you to take a really good look at the exterior of the aircraft. It allows you to check all those access panels, have a good look at the control surfaces, gives you an opportunity to lift the cowl of the aircraft, find out if there's been any birds' nests that may have accumulated. Other things that can change with the status of your aircraft, looking at things like oil leaks, looking at correct oleo extension, is the aircraft sitting right, things like tyre pressures, just the general condition of the aeroplane allows you to do a really good fuel drain, work out if there's been any fuel contamination and things like that. So there's some of the things that may have changed since we perhaps went flying last time. Other things, it depends on where you fly. Tyab, of course, is beautifully maintained and all the rest of it, but you might be going to another ALA whereby there might be a natural surface, grass, gravel. Have a look at strip conditions. Sometimes we may be flying into an ALA where a lack of aviation activity may have resulted in grass starting to grow. It might result in things or obstacles being hidden in long grass. Those types of things that we need to perhaps be aware of. But yeah, one of the first things I'd do is just go down, even if you don't want to go flying, straight away, just go down and just hang around the club for an afternoon, chat to people, get yourself back in that aviation groove. But above all, be kind to yourself, take your time, and certainly consider getting that hour with an instructor just to get yourself back in the air.
Hey, great tips, particularly the ones around flight inspection when you're getting back to your aircraft after months of being away. Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Which is probably a difficult one, but where do you see things going for Australian aviation post-COVID? And when I say that, I'm thinking of perhaps your young future pilot, girl or boy, 16, had their heart set on aviation, and they're looking at what's going on. But really, it's 5 or 6 or 7 years before they would get to being a commercial pilot. So, what would your advice be for the next generation of pilots who may be questioning their career path, given what we're going through?
Yeah, well, a couple of things, Stephen, and this is a huge question, of course. But the first thing I'd say is that aviation isn't going away. Aviation is here to stay, and it keeps the world connected. And although that we're climbing out of this COVID pandemic right now, aviation in the long term, it's not going away. So there is a future there, and there are careers there. From the Australian perspective, one of the big things I've seen is the contraction in the RPT world, Qantas, Virgin, Tiger, Jetstar, etc. And yes, we have many airline pilots who are out of work on long-term leave, and we're eagerly awaiting these airlines to slowly start getting back in the air. And we've seen airliners parked all over the country. They're all over Melbourne Airport, Avalon, Alice Springs. They're in storage. But the big thing I've seen is, and my message for younger pilots or pilots starting out on the journey, there is more to aviation than RPT airlines. In many respects, general aviation has thrived, especially in the northern parts of Australia, surrounding the mining industry and things like that. We've seen many parts of aviation around Australia actually thrive during this time. The fly-in, fly-out aviation industry in places like Western Australia has continued to grow strongly. General aviation with regards to aeromedical, aerial survey. Aviation for the young person is not just the shiny cockpit of a 737 or a 787. There are so many jobs and roles in aviation beyond just flying for an airline. So we've seen other sectors of our industry really thrive during this time, which is the GA side of the house. So yeah, look, have the wherewithal, talk to people, get advice, get opinion, but don't discount aviation that isn't just the airline cockpit, because there's a lot more out there to explore.
Hey Tim, I think, and from your career, which you've been in both government and the private sector, it's a great demonstration of the different facets of aviation. So, hey, look, if I could thank you for your time, and almost like a game show, I'm gonna send you one of our new PAC caps. We've changed our logo.
Beautiful.
But this is the first one out the door, so you can wear this with pride as the first PAC cap.
That's great.
We'll also be sending these caps out to all of our members who re-sign up this year. But Tim, that was great and really great for our members. So I want to thank you very much, and look forward to welcoming you and everyone else down to PAC.
Yeah, look, I can personally hardly wait to get back to TIAB. The AV safety seminars we do down there are always well attended. We get great feedback. The safety culture exhibited by the club over the years has been absolutely sensational, and can hardly wait to get back. It probably won't be this year, but certainly next year. And my message to all the people, listening to or watching this is, look, support your local aero club, and get down, get involved, get busy, and it's still a wonderful profession that we're in, whether we do it recreationally or professionally, and it's still that enormous privilege that we have to be able to fly. So thanks, Steve. Thanks to all the members, and we'll chat to you soon.
Hey, Tim, thanks very much and have a great day.
Good on you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.